Hello friends. Have you ever met someone who seems as grounded as the earth itself, yet somehow radiates a quiet, almost magical optimism? Someone who works tirelessly, but laughs like they've never known stress. If you've had the pleasure of knowing a person born under the zodiac sign Taurus, in the Chinese year of the pig, then you already know exactly who we're talking about. This person isn't just a combination of astrological traits, they're a walking contradiction that works. A sensual realist, a stoic dreamer, a soft soul wrapped in granite. And today, we're going deep, not just into who they are, but how they love, live, work, and sometimes quietly unravel. Let's uncover the complex, fascinating layers of a Taurus born in the year of the pig. Love, deep rivers run silent. In the realm of love, Taurus pig individuals move not with haste but with the slow, sure gravity of the earth itself. To them, love isn't a firework, it's a hearth. It starts small, often almost imperceptibly, with acts of kindness, shared meals, lingering glances, and gentle patience. It grows only when nurtured, and it deepens through trust, reliability, and emotional safety. Their romantic energy is slow-burning but profoundly intense, like coals that smolder long after the flames are gone. You won't find them caught in whirlwind affairs or swept away by fast-talking charmers. They require depth, presence, and above all, emotional stability. Once you're in their heart, you are held there with quiet strength and unwavering sincerity. Devotion rooted in earth and emotion. What makes a Taurus pig's love so rare is the way they combine tactile sensuality with emotional depth. They love through action, cooking for you, remembering small details, fixing something you didn't know was broken. They're affectionate without being performative, romantic without being overly grandiose. For them, love isn't a stage, it's a sanctuary. This combination of Taurus's grounded loyalty and the pig's emotional sensitivity creates a lover who is both emotionally attuned and physically affectionate. They don't just offer comfort, they are comfort. And when they say they love you, it's not an experiment or an exploration. It's a statement of commitment, often unspoken but deeply felt. Expectations hidden in kindness. One of the more complex aspects of their love life lies in what they don't say out loud. While they come off as patient and tolerant, Taurus pigs actually carry a very clear vision of what a real partnership should look like: honesty, loyalty, consistency, and shared values. They might not demand loudly, but they observe quietly. If their needs aren't being met, if the relationship feels unstable or unreciprocated, they won't lash out. Instead, they slowly withdraw, like a tide pulling back. This makes them easy to unintentionally hurt, especially by partners who mistake their silence for indifference. What they're really saying is, I expect you to show up. Not just once, but always. And when their expectations are met, they become incredibly generous, loyal, and devoted companions. Forgiveness that runs too deep. Perhaps one of their most beautiful and simultaneously dangerous traits in love is their capacity for forgiveness. A Taurus pig may endure emotional neglect, inconsistency, or even betrayal longer than most signs would tolerate. They're so invested in the idea of lasting love that they will make excuses for behavior that others would see as unacceptable. Not because they're weak, far from it, but because they genuinely believe in people's ability to change, to do better, to be better. They'll justify your mistakes, wait for your better version, and patch over the cracks with compassion. But there's a hidden cost: self-erasure. Sometimes, they lose themselves in their effort to hold the relationship together. And when they finally walk away, they do so forever, quietly and without second chances. The importance of emotional safety. Beneath the composed exterior of a Taurus pig lover lies a deeply sensitive heart. They don't fall in love just to feel good, they fall in love to feel safe. Emotional security is everything to them. That's why they're often slow to open up, especially if they've been hurt in the past. They need reassurance not in words but in actions over time. Consistency, routine, physical presence, these are their love languages. They're not the type to need grand declarations or public gestures. They just want to know that when they turn around, you'll be there, and that you won't disappear when things get hard. If they find someone who can provide that emotional harbor, their loyalty becomes unshakable, their affection endless, and their love something you never have to question. When love becomes a life mission. For Taurus pigs, love isn't just an emotion, it's a foundational element of their entire life. Their relationships often influence where they live, how they work, even what dreams they chase. They don't separate love from the rest of their identity, instead, they build their world around it. This makes them incredibly devoted, but also vulnerable to heartbreak that affects them on a soul-deep level. They view love as a project worth dedicating their life to, not to fix someone, but to build something lasting. A home, a shared vision, a future filled with rituals, laughter, and small joys. They don't need excitement every day, but they need warmth every night. Give them that, and they'll build an empire of quiet happiness with you, one patient gesture at a time. Marriage, building the fortress. To a Taurus pig, marriage is not just a legal agreement or a romantic milestone, it is the ultimate act of creation. It's the structure they dream of building around the love they've carefully grown, brick by brick, over time. Imagine a marriage not built on fireworks but on 1,000 quiet mornings. A kitchen that smells like fresh bread, a home that sounds like laughter and low jazz, a space that feels like emotional gravity. This is the vision they hold, and they pursue it with remarkable consistency and intention. Where others may look for passion, excitement, or drama, the Taurus pig looks for peace, rhythm, and emotional permanence. They don't want a partner who stirs the water, they want one who helps them keep it calm. They are incredibly pragmatic spouses, the kind who show love by folding laundry, organizing the bills, planning for retirement, or making sure your favorite snack is always in the cupboard. Their devotion doesn't shout, it quietly shows up in the day-to-day. In their eyes, care is action, and affection is most honest when it's useful. They rarely miss anniversaries, they keep promises even when they're tired, and they find beauty in traditions most people forget. Their version of romance isn't candlelight and roses, though they're not opposed to it. It's coming home to a partner who never makes you question if you're loved. But beneath all that dependability lies a heart that is much more delicate than they let on. Taurus pigs often carry deep emotional needs they struggle to articulate, partly because they pride themselves on being strong, and partly because they fear seeming needy. But the truth is, they crave validation and physical intimacy as much as anyone else, perhaps even more. They need gentle words, small touches, reminders that their effort is noticed and appreciated. Without these, they don't explode or accuse, they slowly become quietly sad. And that sadness can turn into distance if their emotional needs are ignored for too long. In conflict, Taurus pigs prefer peace over provocation. They are not easily rattled, and they rarely fight just to make a point. But don't confuse this calm for complacency. When boundaries are crossed too many times or emotional intimacy fades, they feel it acutely. Their tolerance is high, but not limitless. When they start to withdraw in a marriage, it's often because they've endured too much in silence. And yet, they'll give second chances, sometimes more than they should, because they so deeply want the relationship to work. Their belief in love is stubborn, and their desire to maintain harmony can border on self-sacrifice. What makes a marriage with a Taurus pig so rewarding is their remarkable capacity for emotional durability. They see marriage not as a chapter, but as a lifelong collaboration. They find joy in shared routines, seasonal traditions, and inside jokes that grow funnier with age. They're the ones who remember your favorite holiday decoration, who still hold your hand after a decade, who instinctively know when you need silence and when you need company. They see their partner not as a separate entity, but as an extension of their emotional landscape. Togetherness, for them, is the whole point. Above all, the Taurus pig seeks a teammate, not someone to complete them, but someone to co-create life with. They want a partner who is as loyal, grounded, and emotionally invested as they are. Someone who shows up every day not just in words, but in presence. Marriage to them is not about escape, fantasy, or perfection. It's about building something real, an emotional home fortified by trust, filled with rituals, and warmed by a love that doesn't need to be loud to be unshakable. Sex, sensuality meets soul. For Taurus Pig individuals, sex isn't a game, a conquest, or a fleeting thrill, it's a language. It's the soft and spoken dialect of their most private self. Their sensuality doesn't just live in the body, it pulses through their soul, carrying with it all the depth, loyalty, tenderness, and intensity they reserve for the very few they let past their walls. When they make love, it's never just physical, it's spiritual architecture, slowly built and deeply inhabited. Every touch is intentional, every kiss loaded with silent meaning. They aren't trying to impress you with wild novelty, they're trying to merge with you, to speak to your emotional core without needing a single word. The Taurus influence gifts them with an earthy sensuality that loves texture, scent, taste, rhythm. They are lovers who linger, on your skin, in your presence, in the moment. They are deeply attuned to what feels good, not just to themselves, but to their partner. They're not in a rush. In fact, they might be allergic to it. They understand that true pleasure unfolds in stages, like a slow sunrise. Their ideal encounter starts long before the bedroom, maybe in a shared meal, a prolonged hug, a moment of eye contact across a quiet room. Foreplay, for them, is emotional as much as physical. Trust is the bed they build first, and only then do they invite you to lie in it with them. Yet the pig side of them adds something equally powerful: emotional generosity. They want their partner to feel not just desired, but adored. That's the secret to understanding a Taurus Pig in bed. They don't just want to feel good, they want to make you feel safe, seen, and cherished. They are givers by instinct, intuitive to the shifting dynamics of pleasure and need. But don't confuse this kindness with simplicity. They also carry a quiet intensity, a sexual magnetism that doesn't announce itself, but pulls you in. It's the combination of vulnerability and strength, of restraint and depth, that makes intimacy with them feel like being trusted with something rare. Still, as emotionally open as they may seem, this level of connection comes with conditions. Taurus pigs cannot, and will not, perform if they don't feel emotionally secure. If trust is broken, if they sense dishonesty, if they feel objectified or unseen, they withdraw completely. Not out of malice, but protection. They retreat behind layers of silence and warmth that suddenly feel unreachable. Sex, for them, is far too intimate to separate from emotion. They are deeply private lovers, and anyone granted access to that side of them must prove themselves with patience, consistency, and empathy. They don't need perfection, but they need presence. There's also a quiet curiosity that runs through their erotic life. While they may seem traditional on the surface, Taurus pigs are surprisingly open-minded when they feel safe. They don't chase novelty for its own sake, but they are deeply interested in exploring deeper layers of pleasure, sensation, and connection. They are not performative, they don't need an audience, nor do they want to play roles. Instead, their openness is rooted in trust and shared vulnerability. With the right partner, they're willing to try new things, go deeper, get weirder, in ways that always feel emotionally anchored, never forced. Their bedroom becomes a sanctuary where play, passion, and soul meet. And perhaps what's most unforgettable about them as lovers is that they don't leave fingerprints, they leave echoes. Being with them doesn't just satisfy in the moment, it lingers in your memory, in your nervous system, in your definition of what intimacy can be. They imprint not through performance but through presence, through how safe you felt, through how fully you were seen, through the way time slowed down when you were with them. They don't burn hot and vanish, they stay warm and constant, like the fire you can return to, again and again. Intimacy with a Taurus pig isn't a scene from a movie, it's the feeling of coming home. Friendship, the silent guardians. Friendship for a Taurus pig is not a casual interaction, it's a quiet vow. These are the friends who don't need to make grand entrances or dominate conversations to be unforgettable. They're the ones who sit beside you during the storm, not to talk over it, but simply to be there. Their strength in friendship is not in showmanship, but in consistency, in the invisible acts of care that most people overlook. They remember your birthday even if you don't make a big deal about it. They remember the story behind your favorite song. They'll check in months later about something small you once said in passing. With them, friendship isn't measured in frequency but in depth. and when they call you a friend, they mean it. The Taurus Pig friend is an emotional anchor. Their loyalty is so instinctive, it often surprises people used to flakier connections. They're not the friend who pops up only when it's convenient. They're the one who keeps showing up even when everything falls apart. If you're sick, they'll bring soup. If you're heartbroken, they'll sit in silence beside you for hours just so you don't feel alone. They don't fix everything, but they make everything feel more bearable. That's their superpower, steady emotional presence. When life feels chaotic, a Taurus Pig friend is a human grounding wire. But don't expect to break into their inner circle quickly. Taurus Pigs are incredibly selective about who they trust, and rightly so. They aren't interested in fleeting connections or obligatory small talk. If you're just looking for someone to party with or vent to occasionally, they're probably not your person. Their circle is intentionally small, carefully curated over time. They look for honesty, emotional intelligence, and sincerity. They are drawn to people who are kind without agenda, weird in the best way, and capable of real vulnerability. And once you're in their circle, you're protected, respected, loved, without theatrics but with unwavering loyalty. However, betrayal hits them with unusual force. While they forgive in romantic relationships more readily, in friendships, trust is sacred, and once it's broken, it's very rarely rebuilt. They won't cause a scene. They won't rant or rage. They'll just vanish. The friendship that once felt so comforting will dissolve into polite distance. And while they may grieve it privately, they won't chase reconciliation unless the apology is as sincere and grounded as the friendship once was. For them, loyalty is the highest currency, and if you bankrupt it, they won't invest again. Their distaste for drama is not about disinterest, it's about emotional hygiene. They guard their peace the way others guard their passwords. They won't engage in gossip or pettiness because it depletes them. They seek clean-hearted connections, friendships built on laughter, mutual growth, creative exchange, and emotional truth. If you bring chaos, they'll quietly step away. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Life is noisy enough. They want friends who feel like rest, not another storm. And in return, their friendship is one of the most nourishing relationships you'll ever experience. Expect random texts just to remind you that you matter. Expect gifts that don't cost much but feel like they were made for you. Expect loyalty that doesn't have to be proven every day because it was already promised in the way they never let you fall alone. With a Taurus Pig, friendship becomes a kind of emotional home. A place where you're accepted fully, held gently, and remembered completely, even in the quiet moments. They don't need to say they love you out loud, because you'll feel it, in the rides they offer, the errands they help with, the space they hold when the rest of the world turns away. Business, quietly ruthless. Taurus Pig individuals may never enter a room and immediately command attention, but give them a desk, a vision, and uninterrupted time, and they'll quietly build an empire. There is nothing flashy or theatrical about their ambition. In fact, most people around them might not even realize just how serious they are until the results start stacking up. Their business approach is grounded, focused, and obsessively consistent. They don't chase hype, they chase mastery. Their power doesn't scream, it accumulates. Like the tide, it rises steadily, until one day, you look around and realize everything's changed. What they lack in flamboyance, they make up for in unshakable strategy. They don't play to win fast, they play to win forever. The Taurus Pig thrives best in work that allows for both structure and slow-blooming creativity. They're not adrenaline junkies or startup thrill seekers. Instead, they gravitate toward fields where patience is rewarded, where their ability to build thoughtfully becomes an asset. Think careers like architecture, design, real estate, financial planning, boutique business ownership, or even high-level project management. They are artisans of systems, quietly weaving together aesthetics, efficiency, and purpose. They are also intensely values-driven. If a career or company doesn't align with their core beliefs or offer them a sense of legacy, they won't fake it. They'll either transform it, or leave to build their own. Financially, they are what every reckless spender should fear. The quiet planner with a spreadsheet, a timeline, and a backup plan. Taurus gives them a deep need for security, and Pig adds an emotional attachment to comfort and future-proofing. Together, they create someone who doesn't just dream of a financially free life, they engineer it. They don't waste, they don't gamble, and they don't chase overnight riches. But they're also not stingy, they just believe that comfort is earned through discipline. These are the people who might live modestly while secretly building a diverse investment portfolio, own property outright, or retire early with a solid passive income stream. Their motto: quiet money stays the longest. When it comes to leadership, Taurus pigs are paradoxes in the best way. They lead with strength, but not intimidation. They make decisions with conviction, but never ego. They are the type of bosses who remember their employees' birthdays, who ask about your sick dog, who show up early and leave late, not to be seen, but to make sure the job is done right. Their teams trust them deeply, because they lead with both competence and compassion. And yet, behind all that empathy is a spine of steel. Make no mistake, if you're dishonest, sloppy, or disloyal, they will cut ties cleanly, without drama but with finality. They give second chances, but never third. Their competitive edge is not in aggression but in sheer endurance. While others burn out chasing trends or implode from mismanagement, the Taurus pig keeps going. They're immune to distractions. They don't need the loudest voice in the room to influence its direction. They study their market. They know their numbers. They trust their instincts. And while competitors are busy underestimating them, they're locking in long-term clients, stabilizing revenue streams, and cultivating a network of people who respect them deeply. By the time you realize they've outpaced you, it's already done. They never had to sprint. They just never stopped walking. Ultimately, their relationship to business is deeply personal. It's not just about money. It's about building something that lasts, something they can feel proud of, something that aligns with their sense of dignity and identity. They're not interested in fame or fast exits. They want sustainability, integrity, and legacy. Whether it's a family-owned shop or a multi-million-dollar operation, they treat every endeavor with a craftsman's pride and a protector's heart. Their empire may not be built on noise, but it will be built to withstand time. Dark sides, the quiet struggle. For all their warmth, stability, and deep emotional intelligence, Taurus pigs carry with them a particular kind of darkness, one that rarely announces itself, but quietly coils beneath the surface. It isn't dramatic or destructive in obvious ways. No, their shadows are subtle, often invisible to others, and therefore even more dangerous. Their struggles come softly, disguised as strengths, and settle in like familiar habits. What makes it even more complex is that they often don't speak about these struggles until they're overwhelmed by them. Their exterior is so composed, so grounded, that few would suspect the internal storms they sometimes endure in silence. Their stubbornness is legendary, but not always visible. They're not the kind to argue for the sake of it, but once they've decided something, emotionally, ideologically, or practically, it becomes nearly impossible to shift them. They dig their heels in with the same calm certainty they used to build their lives. This kind of inflexibility can damage relationships, stall personal growth, and create blind spots. They might endure unhealthy situations just to avoid admitting they were wrong about someone or something. And because they dislike conflict, they'll often let this resistance simmer below the surface, becoming quietly immovable in ways that confuse or frustrate those around them. Then there's their tendency toward passivity. On the surface, it looks like patience. But under stress, that patience becomes avoidance. They'd rather keep the peace than spark tension, even when tension is necessary. They'll ignore red flags, smile through discomfort, and tell themselves that things will improve on their own. Spoiler: they rarely do. This passive streak leads them to suppress feelings, resentments, disappointments, unmet needs, until they accumulate like emotional sediment. Eventually, this inner buildup creates a quiet discontent, a sense of internal suffocation that they don't know how to release without either retreating completely or erupting unexpectedly. Overindulgence is another trap. These are deeply sensual people who love beautiful things, good food, cozy environments, and tactile pleasure. But when life feels unstable or emotionally unsafe, they lean too far into those comforts. A bad week can turn into a shopping spree, a forgotten goal, or hours of escapism under blankets with too much wine and too little purpose. They don't spiral outward, they spiral inward. It's a slow surrender to inertia masked as self-care. What begins as a way to soothe quickly turns into avoidance, and before they realize it, they've created emotional dead zones that feel soft on the outside but empty within. People-pleasing is another dark lane they know too well, especially driven by the pig's natural desire to nurture and be accepted. They will give, and give, and give, and while their generosity is often their greatest asset, it becomes dangerous when it's not met with boundaries. They will sacrifice their own needs for harmony, tolerate mistreatment out of misplaced empathy, and mistake silence for strength. Over time, this self-erasure leads to identity confusion, burnout, and deeply seated resentment, usually directed inward, because they blame themselves for not doing enough, even when they've done too much. These struggles are often compounded by their reluctance to share pain. Taurus pigs are natural protectors, not just of others, but of their own vulnerability. They don't want to burden people. They don't want to look weak. So they carry their emotional wounds like hidden weight, smiling while their backs buckle. This self-containment, while admirable in doses, becomes toxic when it cuts them off from connection and healing. They'll disappear emotionally while still being physically present, leaving friends, partners, and even themselves wondering where the real version of them went. Ultimately, the quiet struggles of the Taurus pig lie not in external chaos, but in internal imbalance. Their shadows are not wildfires, they're slow leaks. Stubbornness becomes rigidity, patience becomes paralysis, sensuality becomes excess, generosity becomes martyrdom. The key for them is awareness. When they recognize that their peacekeeping comes at the cost of their own joy, or that their steadiness has turned into stuckness, they can begin to shift. Because just as they are masters at creating stability for others, they also have the power to restore it within themselves, once they stop protecting the silence and start listening to the truth beneath it. Life goals: the peaceful empire. For the Taurus pig, life isn't a race to the top. It's a patient and deliberate journey towards something more soulful. A life that feels good, not just one that looks good. Their ultimate goal is to create a reality that doesn't require escape. No constant reinvention, no noisy reinforcements of status or success. Just a calm, curated existence built with steady hands and a full heart. What drives them isn't ambition for ambition's sake. It's the longing for wholeness, for a day-to-day that reflects their deepest values. Their idea of happiness is subtle. A late breakfast with someone they love, the warm hum of a space they designed themselves, the comfort of knowing they don't owe anyone an explanation for how they live. They dream of a home, not just a house. One where the kitchen smells like their favorite meal, where every object has a story, where the lighting is just right in the evenings. The Taurus pig wants to feel held by their environment, not just surrounded by it. Their home is their castle, their sanctuary, and in many ways, their legacy. It doesn't need to be grand, but it must feel sacred. It's where they recharge, where they create, where they nurture. A garden, a sunlit window seat, a record player spinning something soft, these aren't luxuries to them. They're necessities, little bricks in the emotional architecture of their ideal life. Professionally, they're less concerned with recognition than with resonance. They don't want to be drained by their work, they want to be rooted in it. Whether they're crafting things by hand, running a business, teaching, designing, healing, or managing something with precision, it's crucial that their work aligns with their sense of meaning. They thrive in routines, in rhythms, in long-term endeavors where they can see visible progress. But the goal isn't money alone. It's autonomy, balance, and the quiet pride that comes from doing something well, for a long time, with integrity. Their dream isn't to impress, it's to fulfill. Relationships are central to their vision of success. The Taurus pig doesn't just want a lover or friend, they want a witness. Someone who sees them deeply, stays steady through seasons, and grows alongside them. A partner who understands that silence doesn't mean distance, that traditions matter, and that small gestures can hold entire universes. They want someone to share coffee with in the morning, plans with in the afternoon, and warm silence with at night. And they want children, chosen family, or community members who benefit from their presence, who feel safe in their orbit. Legacy, for them, is built in these soft, enduring relationships. Their goals are rarely about revolution, they're about evolution. A better version of the home, a stronger version of the body, a wiser version of the self. They are slow changers, but once committed to a path, they walk it with deep reverence. And because they aren't distracted by trend chasing or external validation, their path is often unusually clear. They measure success by how deeply they breathe at the end of the day. How warm their home feels. How close they feel to the people they love. That's their metric. That's their empire. Ultimately, the Taurus Pig wants to leave something behind that can't be erased. Not just wealth, but wisdom. Not just property, but peace. A garden that continues to bloom. A recipe passed down. A relationship that lasted. A life that was lived intentionally, even quietly, but never shallowly. Their legacy isn't loud, but it's lasting. And their peace, hard-earned, carefully chosen, and built like everything else in their world, with patience, purpose, and an unshakable sense of what truly matters. So next time you meet someone who's quietly working, quietly loving, quietly giving, you might just be in the presence of a Taurus born in the year of the pig. You may not notice them right away. They won't be the loudest voice in the room or the most flamboyant presence at the table. But look again. Notice the one who's always there, doing the thing no one else volunteered for. The one who asks how you're really doing and actually listens to the answer. The one who remembers your dog's name, who shows up with coffee just because, who fixes the broken chair instead of complaining about it. That's the Taurus Pig in motion. They don't just do love, friendship, work, or life, they embody it. Every choice they make is wrapped in intention. Every action holds quiet loyalty. Every step forward is one they plan to sustain. What you're seeing is a person who has made peace with patience. Someone who understands that good things take time, whether it's a career, a marriage, or a self. Their strength is never boastful. It's woven into routines, stitched into rituals, embedded in their loyalty. They'll build a life brick by brick, quietly mastering the art of showing up, again and again, without asking for applause. And when they give fully. Their work ethic, relentless. Their kindness, unshakable. Their love, bone deep. They're not interested in temporary highs. They're cultivating legacy. And if you're lucky enough to be part of their inner world, you already know how rare that is. It's easy to overlook them at first glance. In a world that celebrates noise, spectacle, and self-promotion, their humility can make them almost invisible. But their presence is felt in the long run. They're the ones still standing when the crowd thins out, still giving when others burn out, still believing in the long game. They don't chase trends, they set the pace by walking their own. They know who they are, and that groundedness creates a magnetic kind of calm. Spend enough time near them and you start to crave that energy too. The slow, rooted, unwavering confidence of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. They're just being, fully and wholly. You'll also notice that they give more than they take. Not because they're trying to be saints, but because they genuinely enjoy contributing to others' well-being. They bring food, they offer help, they lend a tool, a book, an ear. They don't make a scene of their generosity, because they don't see it as remarkable, it's simply who they are. There's a depth to their giving that isn't performative. It's practical, soulful, sincere. But don't take that for weakness. These people may be sweet, but they have limits. They know how to disappear, how to protect their peace, how to rebuild alone if they must. Their kindness is a choice, not a flaw. When life gets hard, and it will, they are the ones you'll want in your corner. They won't run, they won't panic, they'll quietly assess, gently support, and if needed, carry more than their share until the storm passes. They don't need credit for it. They just need to know you're okay. Their reliability isn't conditional, it's wired into their bones. And the older they get, the more they become anchors in their communities, families, and relationships. They may never be famous, but they'll be remembered. Because when everything else fades, what lasts is presence. Steady, strong, and rooted in love. And now that you know the truth, can you see them more clearly? That person in the background, humming to themselves as they quietly create a beautiful life. The one who builds with care, speaks with intention, gives without announcement, and stands like a lighthouse when the world feels uncertain. They are not loud, they are not flashy, but their impact is lasting. So take another look. The Taurus Pig doesn't need your spotlight, but if you give them your trust, your respect, your space, they'll give you something much more rare in return. A love, a friendship, a loyalty that endures.